children up in the wee dawn of the day smoking pot. It smells terrible. Cultivate the third eye. In 401 BC, 10,000 Greek mercenary soldiers suddenly found themselves on the losing side of a battle, trapped deep in the heart of Persia. They wandered through their camp, bemoaning their fate. Among them was the writer Xenophon, who had gone along with the soldiers as a kind of roving reporter. Xenophon had studied philosophy as a student of Socrates. He believed in the supremacy of rational thinking, of seeing the entire picture, the general idea behind the fleeting appearances of daily life. One night he had a vision of how the Greeks could escape their trap and return home. He saw them moving swiftly and stealthily through Persia, sacrificing everything for speed. He saw them leaving right away, using the element of surprise to gain some distance. He thought ahead of the terrain, the route to take, the many enemies they would face, how they could help and use citizens who revolted against the Persians. In the space of a few hours, he had conjured up the details of a retreat, all inspired by his overall vision of their fast, zigzag route to the Mediterranean and home. Although he had no military experience, his vision was so complete and he communicated it with such confidence that the soldiers nominated him as their de facto leader. The story embodies the essence of all authority and the most essential element in establishing it. Most people are locked in the moment. They are prone to overreacting and panicking, seeing only a narrow part of the reality facing the group. They cannot entertain alternative ideas or prioritize. Those who maintain their presence of mind and elevate their perspective above the moment tap into the visionary powers of the human mind and cultivate that third eye for unseen forces and trends. They stand out from the group and fulfill the true function of leadership. I like that. Daily law. Create the aura of authority by seeming to possess the godlike ability to read the future. This is a power that can be practiced and developed and applied to any situation. That's from the Laws of Human Nature, number 15. Make them want to follow you. The law of fickleness. That's a good one. See what pops out of this one. Let's read this paragraph. Da Vinci remains the icon and the inspiration for a new form of knowledge. In this form, what matters are the connections between things, not what separates them. The mind has a particular momentum itself. When it heats up and discovers something new, it tends to find other items to study and illuminate. All of the greatest innovations in history come from an openness to discovery, one idea leading to another, sometimes coming from unrelated fields. You must develop this spirit and the same insatiable hunger for knowledge. This comes from widening your fields of study and observation, letting yourself be carried along by what you discover. You will find that you will come up with unexpected ideas, the kind that will lead to new practices or novel opportunities. If things run dry in your particular line of work, you have developed your mind along other lines that you can now exploit. Having such mental flow will allow you to consistently think around any obstacle and maintain your career momentum. I like it. All right, let's get moving. the ability to see far into the future. That's something I have to work on. I think what happened to me might have hindered my ability to do that a bit. When my mind gets completely overwhelmed with stuff, like too much. That's not exactly true. If it's a lot of things that I can't process as immediately in front of me, like when I'm with the dogs, there's a lot to keep track of in terms of like when a fight breaks out. There's a lot of moving pieces that I have to observe and address immediately. And when something like that happens, my mind goes like really still, like real quiet, like peaceful inside my brain. And I'm watching myself do things from like a elevated perspective. It's an odd experience. But like if it's a lot of things coming at me like informational wise that it's not in my immediate experience, if I have a lot of people telling me things at once, or like if I'm giving a lot of directions that I have to um, remember or like prioritize, it's my mind gets like, it's weird. I remember this the night I overdosed. Like all these people like asking me questions, like it was too much, and my mind just like shut down. And I think the difference is like with the dogs, I want to focus on what's happening and what happened that night. Like all these people asking me questions, I didn't want to hear anything they had. Like I didn't want to focus on what they were asking. I wanted them to leave me alone. I think that maybe might be the determining factor on how my mind likes to prioritize its own focus. I've been in situations like with the dogs where there's been like maybe a group of like 10 dogs, and it was just a weird day. I even remember when it happened, and like two or three dogs started like fighting, and I had to jump into the middle of it. I separated them, but one of the dogs bumped into like another dog, and that set off that dog to react to him, and they started to get into a fight, and then they bumped into another dog, and that added another dog to this. So I was like, little pockets of fights kept breaking out, and I kept having to jump in. It was a crazy day. It was like an energy that was moving from spot to spot, and it took a while to address. And I had no problem doing that. So in the moment, I'm okay with that, with dealing with things coming at me that immediately concerned me. If I had like a bunch of people like asking me questions that I have no interest in addressing, my mind goes blank. Like I just now when it comes to like this third eye, like seeing into the future thing, I can to a certain degree. But I enjoy looking at like alternate ways of perceiving things. Like I don't, I'm trying to think of an example. Um, Can't really think of one. Okay, how about like with COVID? Or what else would be a better example? I guess maybe COVID's like the best example, especially like when it came to those jabs. As soon as they started talking about it, I'm like, I'm not getting that. I'm not doing that. And I hadn't even really come across any of the information I ended up finding out about them. When I finally did, I'm like, I'm definitely not getting that. Oh, this is coffee. I was expecting carbonation. It does not have carbonation. I'm trying to remember. I was having dreams last night. I remember. I wake up during the night, like kind of remembering them, but then I go back to sleep, and by the time I wake up again, they're all gone. I don't remember what it was. But I remember thinking, so that was interesting. And now, nothing. You know, it's interesting. When I was young, whenever I thought about the future, like when you see the future in movies, you know, it's like flying cars or like just everything they show you about what the future might look like, you think it looks cool. But now that you see some of it arriving, it's more weird than cool with the whole robots, and especially when they make them look like humans. Like I follow a lot of AI accounts and robotics accounts on my Instagram, and I see a lot of posts on the advancements of robotics. And I hear a lot of conversations about AI itself, and it's just very, it's very strange. Not as cool as I thought it would be as a kid. Like when you see stuff like maybe like Star Wars or things like C-3PO. And now that that stuff's here, I'm not a fan. You know, it's kind of funny. That's why, like in the movie, whichever movie, like the wise old man that people go to like get advice from. He's always like way separate from the rest of society, and you have to like go travel to some remote place to go see him. And he's living very simply with none of the like luxuries of like modern living for whatever time the movie's set in. Now I get it. That makes sense. It seems like all like the advancements clutter the mind with unnecessary activity. Oh, star. it's kind of fun. I'm sitting here thinking like how most people were able to like. So I was thinking about that page I read about being able to see and like further out into the future. I was thinking how people like plan out their lives, what they want to do, who they want to be, or like what they want to do for a living. Or, some people always had that kind of that focus or that interest to focus on. Like I always wanted to be a psychologist, so I went to school for that, and that's what I am today. It's the life I live. I never really had that. Like, nothing I ever really wanted to be. But then I wonder, like, because the very odd, serendipitous experiences that I've had in my life that have given me the mentality that I have, or helped solidify, or how do I what's the word for that? I've always had the kind of like this grand design kind of belief. You want to call it like God's plan or whatever, however you want to phrase that. I always kind of believe in something like that ever since I was like real little. But there was never any verification. I guess that's the word. There was never anything that verified that was actually true, other than being told, in school, God has a plan for you, stuff like that. I always believed that, and it's kind of because I've made some weird decisions that was actually verified to be very, very true. And I wonder, like, for those people who did have more of a focus on what they wanted to do or be, like, do you miss out on that? On seeing God's plan because you were so busy making your own plans? Like, is that a possibility? I don't know. Because I think there's very few people that would allow themselves to do things that well, at least like for me, the example would be like when I allowed my family to talk me into going into trucking. I absolutely hated it, and I absolutely never wanted to do it. But for whatever reason, I just gave in, like, alright, whatever. When everything inside of me was like, don't do that. you were going to be miserable. And I was. I was absolutely miserable doing it. But because of that, I helped build Caesar's Place. And then when it came to me doing a little urban camping, as I'll phrase it, if I was telling anybody I was going to do that, or that's what I was doing, they would have been telling me, don't do that. What are you doing? But that's what I did. And not just because it's just I didn't have any other idea of what to do. And that's what led me to the dogs. And that's what led me to Caesar's place. It's like this very strange kind of circuitous events that happen. It's like, how does that happen? And that's not like, it's like a full circle story, but that's a big circle that took some extreme decisions to come full circle towards. Like, I'm pretty sure people will have small full circle events in their life that are like just, like marginal. It's like very mundane, something that happened that came full circle that was like small. This was like huge. And it all revolved around like allowing myself to do something that I didn't want to do. I knew I was going to hate, but I did it anyways. But then it goes back to my question, like, I'm like that feather in Forrest Gump, just kind of blowing around, allowing whatever just to take me here and there. I guess that movie's a good example of what living life like that does. You end up in some very interesting places. Like, you're so busy charting your own course, but then you only have one destination. But if you're like that feather, you have many interesting destinations. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Who knows? Like right now, I was thinking about, as I'm talking about all this, in the back of my mind is like these scripts that I wrote or I constructed, however you want to put it. I used AI to do it, but I don't think that matters because the interview is what it's based on. That was the heavy lifting. I don't think people really understand how AI works when it comes to like what I did, because they would look at these and like, well, you didn't write that. I'm like, my reply would be, yes, I did, because it's 100% completely based on that interview took a long time to conduct. Just because I didn't write the actual dialogue doesn't mean it's not completely based on the events of my life. I have no interest in writing the dialogue. It was the idea of the events that are being expressed, that I was interested in constructing. So that's why I did the interview. Very interesting to do, to be honest. But as I was sitting here talking earlier about like being that feather and all that, I was thinking about, like, half of my mind was thinking about those scripts that I wrote, and kind of finished, but I haven't even really read them. I already know what it's based on. I just haven't read. I've read one of them. It was really cool. I was like, wow, this. But there's like 5 or 6 of them. I think 5. And I have to read them to see what it did. And if it's worth doing anything with. be honest, like, say this turns into some sort of material that could be used for who knows what, it would be kind of like a Forrest Gump-esque type movie or series or whatever, limited series, whatever you want to call it. Because like even weird like events like that, the bowling ball incident, and the overdose, like blunt force trauma to my brain, both physically and chemically, changed me in a way that allowed other things to unfold, and that pushed that feather along. And now that I'm like thinking of like trying to do something with it in terms of like turn it into some sort of media material, I remember being real young, maybe in my early 20s, and I was really into the movie industry back then. And I don't know why. I just had a real appreciation for like certain writers and directors, not just like the movies themselves, but like the people that made them. There was like certain directors whose work I really liked, certain writers whose work I really liked, cinematography and all that. But it never went any further than that. So that'd be interesting if this ends up being made into something. Because that's like another gigantic full circle event. Another huge loop to close. If something happens with it, who knows? It'll be just a gigantic waste of time. And if so, at least the interview is interesting. I have a transcript of the whole interview that I did with Claude. It's an interesting conversation because it's basically my life, as detailed as I can remember it. Probably like the grand scheme. If I could get these people to do it, probably the best way to approach this is if I could have my mom, my dad, and my sister all do what I did with Claude, and get the transcripts of all those life stories, and then combine them into one gigantic piece of material, just to see how all these points of experience come together to form whatever. But they would never do that. And if they did, I don't know how honest they would be. That was extremely honest, even if it didn't make me look good, and I don't know that they would do that. I am here and seen.